And Crane and the Cowboy coming to you this November 9th, right after the election, an election that shocked a lot of people. Not my buddy Patrick Dorrington here. He really called it. He's been saying there's a movement out there, and this week, Monday, he came back from being on the road with some Trump folks, and you really saw this groundswell. But, you know, you and I would talk about it. I'd say, I don't think he's got the numbers, though. But
well, you know, a lot of people remember the people that sat home in 2012. They didn't sit home this time. You remember the evangelicals that sat home? Remember George Bush in 2000 because of the drunk driving thing? They showed up.
And the evangelicals who do want to vote for a Mormon.
Right. And then also the idea that all of a sudden the Supreme Court, I think that weighed a lot on people's minds, especially conservatives. They said, do we really want these people doing this thing? And the other thing is, there's a hunger. You know, after 8 years of stagnation and no growth and no income growth, they finally said, we've had it, and they're willing to turn it over to somebody who's promised them a better future.
And as we said in our last segment, Donald Trump really just outworked Hillary Clinton. There was sort of a feeling, I think, among the Clintonistas, if you will, that this was hers. You know, it's her time, and it was just going to be handed to her on a platter. And then a lot of people thought about the email scandal. A lot of people thought about Benghazi. A lot of people thought about what she did with Libya, how she kind of really screwed up foreign policy. And then to run on Obama's track record with his economic record, you know, 50 million people on food stamps, 94 million people out of the workforce. People just, no, we got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and if you look at the people who said change was important to them, Trump got 83%. That is so unheard of. And that tells you what kind of election it was. Also, down ballot, he saved Republicans. You know, they all said, oh, he's going to wreck us down ballot and we're going to lose the Senate. Are you kidding? Without him pulling all those new, especially new voters into those states, Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania, those would have been 2 losses. So Donald Trump is a lot more than just, the victory is a lot bigger than just his presidential
We haven't
campaign.
gone through all the demographics, but it appears to me that Trump got a lot of people who don't vote that much to come out.
Right.
He got some independents. I think he got his fair share of Democrats, too.
Sure.
I mean, big labor Democrats.
Sure. And remember the WikiLeaks. Well, it's hard to measure the damage of WikiLeaks, but if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter and you see the fact that they were trying to blackmail your guy, that they were going to rough him up politically, so to speak, they looked at that, and I think that depressed some of the Democratic
You got to
turnout.
give Bernie a hand just for supporting the ticket at all.
Yeah, and you know what Bernie's probably saying to himself? Why did I ever say, forget about the damn emails? If I'd have made an issue of the emails and maybe bought a comb, I might have been president.
And now the kids aren't going to go get free college because Trump's not going to do that.
And the free ice cream, that dried up as well.
Yeah. But Bernie made a little money. You know, stocks are doing well.
Got a new house.
Let's talk a little bit about the transition. We know that Governor Christie, who may suddenly have new life, you saw him standing next to Donald during the speech early this morning. You know, his political career might have been on the ropes with the Bridgegate situation, but Donald Trump may be forgiven, forget, and move on. You're a good attorney, obviously. You're a good organizer. He's heading the transition.
Yeah, and now you're going to see who they're going to fill in with these things. I expect he's going to try and get some more business people to maybe be, you know, Roosevelt had what he called the $1 a year man. And he invited people who were experts in their field, and they agreed to work for the federal government for a year at $1, just so he could get their expertise. I think you're going to see Trump maybe do something like that. I think you're also going to see some more unusual picks for some of these things, and you're going to see people that are going to actually get something done. Now the big question is, he's going to have a program, and he's going to have to sell the program. Well, he's like Reagan in a sense. Reagan went over the heads of Congress. Remember, he had a Democratic House. He got a tax bill through a Democratic House. And so all of a sudden, Trump has a Republican House and a Republican Senate. He can start to push an agenda through pretty fast.
And it's the timing is interesting. He's got this brand new hotel where the post office was in Washington, right down the street from the White House, so he could put all his pals up there too. How about the people who came out strongly for him? Guys like Rudy Giuliani, Mike Huckabee, Christie, in a sense. Will they get plums?
Oh, I think they'll get something. It depends on what they want. Some of them might decide, say, I'll stay outside and I'll be one of your outside people. He has good advocates, and he wants to bring the best people in. And why not bring in people like that who are nationally known And let's start knocking this thing back and see what we can do to get this country rolling again. So I think you're going to see him move relatively quickly. He's not the kind of guy who's going to sit around.
Here's one guy who I think is probably in his last political job, John Kasich.
Yeah, I think John Kasich. I mean, I've said this about some of these Republicans. They've soiled themselves in the sense of he was going to be this savior. Well, wait till Donald Trump gets beaten and I'll do this. And he thought he was going to be the one to pick up, this working class anger. But remember, when he ran, it was like, it was kumbaya. Let's all just forgive him for good. And he's a mushmouth. So I think he's done. There's a lot more guys that are done, too.
It seems to have just petered out in the last couple of months, and in my opinion, for the good, for the best. Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
They stirred some stuff up. There were some unfortunate incidents with police, but did they come out and vote? Did they try and make a change?
They're Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
They were the flavor of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to have somebody moving in who's actually going to take charge. I spent a lot of time with Sheriff David Clark, America's sheriff. And, I'm sure that he has a place in the administration somewhere. I don't know where that is, and I don't know if he's been approached, but I'm sure he will be.
Certainly a consultant.
Yeah, and you're going to have people with voices. Part of a program is to develop the program. The second part is to sell it. So you need those kind of voices out there, and I think this is going to be a real media savvy, modern media savvy. I don't mean television. I also think some of the news organizations are going to find that their front row seats at the White House press rooms have moved towards behind the cameras.
Right. It's taken over.
You can ask a question from back here.
Yeah, you sit behind the Manila Times.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't want to say Donald Trump's vindictive, but you get a sense that he has a long memory.
I think he does have a long memory, and in politics, it's the old story is, forgive your enemies, but keep them close. And I think he will be a person who understands that. Not in he's not going to go after anybody, but it's like if you come to him and say, hey, how can I serve in the administration? I don't know, sorry, check mark.
As somebody who worked in Washington and knows this system well, Trump just can't come in there like, a bull in a china shop. The people you call the weebies, we be there after you're gone, right? The civil servants. They move at glacier speed.
They move at glacier speed, but remember, there's about 5,000 political appointees that are going to have to fill a lot of slots and fill them fast. Now, again, you're going to have people looking for jobs who were anti-Trump, and
they'll still be looking.
They're going to look at you and see what your Facebook page says and everything else. But again, there's going to be some bureaucrats who don't like this. So what can you do? Slow down the hiring. Let attrition start to take over in some of these departments because you have a lot of baby boomers who are getting close to retirement age. So attack the civil service, in the sense of attack this encrusted barnacle thing that's got going that's on the ship of state and get rid of it.
Would you see a Newt Gingrich having a role? Would you see Donald Trump Jr. having a role?
The kids, I personally believe that Donald Trump did this. He'd already settled with his kids in the sense of you're going to be running the business now. He's 70 years old. And he was looking for a new challenge. That's what I believe. And this was obviously the biggest challenge he could take on. But also, I think the kids are going to run the business. And he's now the president-elect, and he will be president January 20th. So really is not going to have much time.
Well, when you're so busy getting elected and you lay out different programs, platforms, policy papers, et cetera. But now it's going to dawn on Donald Trump, I am the president now. Mm-hmm. And he's meeting with Obama tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Talk about the transition. That's all well and good. But January 20th will roll in here pretty quick. What is job one for him?
Job one for him is the economy, jobs. That was the number one issue with everybody else, and it's always the number one issue when things are bad.
You just can't create them out of thin air. Where they come from?
First thing he has to do is get a tax bill. Once the tax bill goes, that'll free up capital. That'll allow capital to be repatriated to this country, and I think you're going to see a boom. It's going to go right up the rails. And it might be a little rough in the beginning, but it's like Reagan. Remember, when Reagan came in, we had 18% interest rates, 12% unemployment, and Reagan and high inflation. So Reagan basically told Paul Volcker at the Fed, you fight inflation and I'll take the hits politically. And that's what he did. And remember, the 82 midterm election, Reagan didn't do too well. But after that, the boom hit, and it was Katie bar the door.
Do you see much of a honeymoon from a Democratic perspective, or do you think they're just going to jump on Trump right away?
I think right now, they're still shaking the roof off of their heads that just fell in. I think the Democrats are going to go far left. They're going to follow the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, because they're going to say, you see what happens when we try and play this, moderate Hillary Clinton, the Clinton game? And the Clintons are now pariahs because the Clintons lost this election against a guy that no experience in politics, whatever.
Right.
And that stunned them. So, and remember, you got 25 Senate seats the Democrats have to defend in 2018. There's certain people that, like Claire McCaskill from Missouri, she's going to be in trouble. So some of these guys might decide, I better go along with this guy because that's what my voters are doing back home.
The Democrats are kind of like, and the Republicans too, for that matter, kind of like an aging sports franchise. It was really great at one time.
Right.
Now you got to build that farm system and get some talent back.
Yeah. I mean, yes, exactly. And also, but they've stifled their growth of their bench, if you will. One, the Republicans now control 33 out of 50 governorships. That means 33. That's twice as much as the Republicans, or excuse me, Republicans have twice as much as the Democrats. So that's where you build your bench out there. They have no bench. And Nancy Pelosi's in her 80s. Steny Hoyer, the majority leader, the whip, he's in his 80s.
Barbara Mikulski's gone.
Barbara Mikulski's gone. All their old baby boomer warriors are either aging or gone. And the young people haven't come up. So they're going to go through the soul searching that they probably should.
All right, and the final question, Patrick. We talk a lot on this website, thelibertyplaybook.com, about the Constitution, about getting back to states' rights. Donald Trump has been paying lip service to that. Do you think he will get behind any kind of Article 5 movement to amend the Constitution?
Put it this way, I don't think he's going to get out in front of it, but again, I don't think he's going to be against it. I think they're going to bring every tool they can bring to bear on all these situations. And in that respect, it might give it a little bit of life, but it's going to depend on, everybody now going to focus on what he's doing. And that's going to be the main focus of the press and everything else. So if that movement goes, it'll go quietly on the outside. And because of what I said earlier about, state legislatures in Republican hands, and in fact, the last southern state that had a Democratic state Senate has gone Republican. So the whole old Confederacy is now all Republican legislature. So yeah, it could happen.
Rebel Red.
Yep, Rebel Red.
Right. Patrick Dorrance, a Cowboy Libertarian, and Ed Crane with you on thelibertyplaybook.com. We'll talk to you next time.